We're live.
Perfect. And it is 2:00. So I'd like to call this meeting of the special meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Park Commissioners to order. We'll note for the record that all 5 commissioners are present. Our first order of business would be public comments, and we do have one public comment. And Valerie, we will allow 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
I know, I will be very focused and brief because we've got lots going on.
Thank you.
I am Valerie Newell. I work in Cincinnati. I'm a native Cincinnatian, and I've served for 14 years on the Parks Foundation board. I continue to be a financial contributor to the Parks Foundation, and I'm here to speak to you about the marina.
Speak out, please.
Yes, sure. I live on the river in Covington, and I'm representing the historic Licking River Neighborhood District. Our neighborhood would be most impacted by the addition of a marina. Noise skips over the water, and a bar and a restaurant has the possibility to be problematic. Because of that, we would like to be involved in giving feedback in the planning stages so that the issues such as excessive noise can be addressed in that process. We have a lot of valuable expertise regarding the river and are part of it and experience it every day. That could be helpful to you in the planning process. Our neighborhood is not opposed to a marina. What we don't understand is how this marina project has somehow morphed into a bar and a restaurant that will compete with the bank's businesses and possibly produce a lot of noise. The original intent was to complement those businesses, not compete with them. We know for certain that it is possible to operate a marina for a profit without having to include a restaurant and a bar. We are also concerned about the location being east of the suspension bridge and directly across from our historic neighborhood. I live on the river. The area that's now being proposed floods constantly. It's flooded right now. It has a very big wall and it does not have good access to the park. It is directly across from our neighborhood. We would like to suggest that the board consider the area downriver west of the suspension bridge as a location of the marina. That location is near the Great Lawn, is a gentle sloping area, and it gives better access to the park for boaters and is in a less congested area, which I'm sure the Corps would like and the Coast Guard. And it is away from being directly across from our neighborhood. For boaters, it would be a short walk and through the Schmale Park and past Carol Ann's Carousel. Last summer at one of your meetings, Commissioner Castellini said that it was important to give the public the opportunity to comment on the possible location of the marina. I would ask that the board consider these suggestions and allow the neighborhood, our neighborhood, to be involved in giving feedback during the marina planning process. And just for your information, I've given, this is a picture taken this morning of the area that I think you might want to consider that is actually west of the bridge. And then here is a closer look at that property right on that, that Great Lawn, sorry. And then the other piece of paper, let me give that to you, I'm sorry, this is the picture of the current location that is being talked about. So you can see the difference in this, and I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you very, very much. I'm sorry for that.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay, I'm done.
Well, that's a good look.
No, she's wrong.
Yeah,
Yes.
does this look good?
This is.
And I love that lawn. It doesn't, it's not a beautiful.
And
spot.
fortunately, most of the snow was already melted by the time these were taken. Thank you. Thank you very much for your input. That being our only public comment, I do want to inform you and those listening that as we look at our agenda today, the one change that I am proposing is that we will move the executive session prior to the action item labeled C, Personnel Matters. So what we will do is after our second action items A and B, we will go into executive session at that point. We will return, and I do anticipate action being taken by the board of directors, park commissioners at that point in time. Those are the only changes. Are there any other changes to the agenda today? For a special meeting, we're pretty well tied to this agenda item. So, okay, with that, we'll move into action items. And as our first, we have Riverfront boat dock discussion. And with that, my commissioner to the left will recuse herself based on
After she
potential.
impales herself on the corner.
Based on reviews.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I would like to recap. We are going to take up a little discussion on the Riverfront boat dock. For those of you, let me just remind each other, and could we have the doors closed, please? Back beginning in May of 2021, the park board authorized, and we went out with an RFP for design services, construction management, and operations / management of the Cincinnati Riverfront boat dock. Through that procurement process, 2 proposals were received by the city procurement department. And on June 24th of this year, those 2 proposals were opened and a committee established by the procurement department and the city manager met and reviewed the 2 proposals that were presented. On September 14th then of this year at our regular park board meeting, we were given a report by the procurement review committee on the 2 proposals. At that point in time, as you all know, we had not, as board of commissioners, received copies of those 2 proposals. So at that time, we received information from the procurement committee, and the board at that point in time chose not to take action, but requested of the city that we would be given access to the full proposals that had been submitted through the procurement process. And with the assistance of City Manager Boggs, there were accommodations made so that we could receive proposals, a presentation of those proposals from the 2 proposants, whatever the word is, from the 2 organizations that presented the proposals. And at that time, at a special meeting on November 11th, we were presented with information from both parties. As you will recall, at that meeting, H. Hafner and Son presented a presentation to us of their proposal that had been submitted through the procurement process and had been reviewed by the committee. Queen City also made a presentation, but as we became quickly aware, it is a presentation and a proposal that is significantly different than what had been submitted through the proposal process. We did hear that had been initially proposed as a second proposal, but when requested to have a final and best proposal presented, the original proposal that had been presented by Queen City Riverboats was their original proposal that they had submitted. So we have requested from City Law Department as well as procurement their direction to us, because we as a council have, as a board, have agreed that we are bound by city procurement rules and regulations. So we have received information and guidance from both law and procurement that should this board want to consider the second proposal that had been presented to us on November 11th by Queen City Riverboats, that it only be fair that we provide to Hafner and Sons the opportunity to review their proposal and submit any new proposals that they might have. There is also the potential that because the elements of the proposal that was presented by Queen City were significantly different than what had been reviewed through the procurement process, that it may even require us to go out for further submittal of bids from other parties. So having said that, with this board's interest in moving this process forward, the special meeting today was called primarily to consider as a board, do we wish to continue to pursue the proposal that had been provided to us verbally and in a presentation here by Queen City Riverboats, which would then trigger that we go out and receive further information or further bids? Or do we want to decide today that we do not want to pursue the additional information from Queen City or additional proposals for a more expanded boat dock project that we have on the table? So if that is, depending on that, so if we take the route today for clarity, that we would like to pursue additional proposals, we will then go back to procurement and say we need to move forward under those guidelines. If we say today that we do not want to pursue additional input and additional proposals, then I would propose that we have on our December regular board meeting a review and discussion and hopefully decision on a recommendation on the original proposals that had been submitted through the procurement process from both Queen City and Hafner. So that's the item we have on the table today. So I would just like to open it up for any questions on that process or any of your input on the decision on that.
Yes, the first question comes to my mind would be if going out for another RFP bid, whatever it's called, what do we, I mean, time-wise, is that another 6 months before that information comes in? I mean, I'm trying to piece together historically and what we heard from your procurement, a couple of meetings ago. It seems like minimum 3 months, maximum would be 6 potentially. I guess it's more of a question than a statement. I don't know if anybody has a.
I think we do have input on how long that would stay open. It's my understanding that it would be a minimum of 30 days. For a proposal such as this, I know that the original RFP had been extended. The period had been extended because of the degree of information that was being asked by the procurement department. So I think realistically, if we're sitting here today, I think the soonest that we would get an RFP out, get back, go through the procurement process of just ensuring that the proposal that we would get back was consistent with what had been requested. You're looking at a minimum of 60 days at least.
Here's a question that I have, and I think I was tracking with you through the process that got us to this point and the question before us now. The missing piece of information for me is this. We have had a presentation from Hafner and Son, the proposal that the committee reviewed. We got a presentation from Queen City. It was not the proposal that the committee reviewed. So now if we were to take a decision on the information that we have, what we are missing is a presentation on the proposal that was reviewed by the committee as presented by Queen City. So we don't have the same level of information on all the proposals going into making a decision. That's what I'm saying.
That's an excellent question. And my understanding, and we were told, and it was relayed to me, that the direction given to both Hafner and Queen City in advance of the special meeting on November 11th was that they have an opportunity to present their proposal that had been submitted. Whether that was explicitly clear to the two, I can't say. But I know that it is what has been told to me by procurement was that the two parties had been asked to present on their proposal that had been presented to the procurement. Now, having said that, we are free as a board. We could clearly ask that a presentation be made. I think if we decide today that we will not pursue a proposal similar to what was presented to us by Queen City, that we first will need to verify that the original proposal that Queen City did not present to us is still on the table, because I don't know that. So that would be the first question. And if it is, we could ask that they come and present to us that original proposal. That's at our pleasure.
Although they did present some elements of it, if I recall. It was, the head boat was down at closer to the suspension bridge, and it was at the end of the dock line instead of Hafner's, which was at the front of the dock line, if I recall.
Yeah.
And I think it was fairly equivalent lineage footing. The Queen City might have been a little bit longer, but again, I don't recall any of the financial. I don't think Queen City really reported on the financial aspect of the original design and what that would speak to as far as a payback to the city. They spoke to the, call it expanded version, but I don't recall the details of financially of the first one.
Yeah. And for full disclosure to the public, we have now been given, the Park Board of Commissioners has received the two original proposals, the full proposals of what had been submitted.
Jim, my input is this. We asked to see these proposals for a lot more transparency and clarity than we received at the meeting where we received the recommendation from the procurement committee. And we've received that. And I have, again, a lot more clarity on what is being proposed and also the capabilities of the proposers. I think that's the word.
Thank you.
On the project. I don't think that this is the only riverfront project that will ever happen. In fact, I hope it is not. I'm sorry, Valerie. But we have a very rich river history, and I think it would be wonderful to see our river alive. I have heard very loudly and clearly from the boating community that they've waited for this long enough. And just through this board, I think they've waited quite a long time, and I'd really like to see us move this forward. I don't support us slowing this down to repropose or to put out another RFP to solicit ideas on what could go on the riverfront. There is not a lot of new hotel activity going on, certainly anywhere in the city, even most places in the country. So I don't anticipate there being any speed to a project that includes a hotel. And I would like to see this boat dock constructed for the next summer river season. I'm sure that's aggressive at this point because we've gotten a little behind and now we're in winter conditions. But I'd like to see us move this along according to the RFP that we've issued.
And the other thing I guess I would add to that, Molly, is the original submissions were probably closer in scope of what we started out with originally, and then, backed away from doing it ourselves with the state money. So I'm fine moving forward as well. I think this is a long overdue project that, and I think hopefully they can get it done, for this season.
And I'll just add my comments. I appreciate the work both Queen City and Hefner have put into this process. I do feel that we have two viable proposals on the table. I do believe that Queen City was given the opportunity to present to us in detail their presentation that they had given to us. I also feel that we have, as a park board, had steps along the way here that have pushed us back in this process. And I too believe that we owe it to the community to move forward with this project and to not punt another date down the road, 30, 60 days. That's my personal opinion. So any other input on that? Because I would like for us to make a motion as to, do we choose to pursue further proposals, or do we want to continue the road of reviewing and making recommendations on the proposals received through the RFP process?
And I know that you started this out with laying out that we would determine today if we would make a choice to expand the scope of this project or stay on course with the scope of this project. And that we would later make a determination with which proposer we would go down the path with. But I don't expect that between now and the next board meeting, which is next week, that we'll find out any more information.
That's correct.
Is there a reason to defer that motion for another week, or is it something we can take up today?
We could take it up today. I personally would like a little more time,
Okay.
meaning 1 week.
Okay.
I think that 1 week plus taking this aspect off the table, if that is the direction that we take, it brings clarity that this is what we will be taking under consideration next week, a week from now,
I'm with you. And I just remembered we have a meeting in 1 week.
in 1 week.
So, okay.
So would you mind stating again, just so we're all, so that I'm clear? The decision that we will be taking in our next meeting will be an evaluation of the proposals as presented to the committees that were under review,
Yes,
not the proposal that we got presented to us in the meeting in November.
if that is the motion we take today to
Yeah.
not pursue, then yes,
Okay.
we would review the two proposals that had gone through the RFP process.
Yes.
We would consider at our meeting next week the recommendation and information received from the committee. And then we would make a decision at that time. And just so we all know, that decision is to continue, that we choose one of the proposals to go further towards a definitive agreement.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's one thing. After we take a vote today on this, we can also talk about, do we want to have more input, more presentations?
Okay.
But having said that, is there a motion, and it can be phrased either in the positive or the negative, related to further consideration of proposals in line with the amended proposal received by Queen City Riverboats at our last meeting, at our November 11th meeting?
I will make a motion to the positive that we proceed in evaluating the proposals as submitted to the city.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second, okay. Are we clear on what is on the table? By approving this motion, we will say, we will look at the two proposals that had been submitted and gone through the. Is there any further questions or conversations?
I have one question.
Yes.
As I recall, and I don't remember seeing it, and maybe one of you can help me. The Queen City proposal that was presented to the city and reviewed by the committee scored 0 on inclusion. When they made the present, is that,
That's not correct.
okay,
No, you are correct.
It was
You are
correct,
You're-
but the paperwork of the individual was late in getting, I think there was a delay in the paperwork, flowing through to the particular departments that track that. So I think the intent was there, but I don't think the paperwork caught up.
But
got
you
it.
were absolutely correct. That
Okay.
was,
So now, as we are evaluating those, it is with the understanding that those diversity inclusion parameters will be included in that consideration or not.
So
that's up to us.
In the staff report that we received, it says that neither initial proposal met the DEI goals. For the best and final proposal, H. Hafner met the DEI goals, and QCR submitted partial percentages with SB and WB vendors still in the registration process.
Yes.
So
And since that time.
Yeah.
They have qualified under
They have.
that plan. And we are at liberty because we can take all aspects into consideration.
Okay.
So I think, in my opinion, I think we can consider that those registrations are now in place.
Thanks for the clarification.
that helps me as well.
Okay. That being said, any other questions, comments? So we have a motion on the floor. I'll take, let's do a roll call vote.
President Getz,
Yes.
Vice President Thomas,
Yes,
Commissioner Castellini is not present, Commissioner Lindner,
yes,
Commissioner North,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, so to be clear, at our next meeting, and I will ensure that staff recirculates to us the report from the committee. If you do not have, you should all have the two proposals as presented. We will consider those. And if there's any other information you would like in advance, let us know within the next week. Is there a desire to have another presentation by Queen City? Okay.
the only, after I review it, I'll probably be okay, but if I could just, kind of keep my powder dry for a day or two to be able to review, and maybe all my questions will be answered, by that.
And I will assure that Queen City is clear about our direction here, and we will give them an opportunity. If we have questions or would like clarification, we will ask them to be here at the meeting so that we can address those.
I think that's a good idea. Because then I think we will be operating with the same base of information from both.
Yeah.
And that should eliminate any concern about apples to orange comparisons.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, that's the way we'll proceed. Rocky, could you ask Commissioner Castellini to come in? We will have this on the meeting next week, the agenda for next week. And at that time, we have asked staff to provide their input. So we will have input from staff on the two proposals.
Jim, are those RFP documents public record documents?
I personally could not tell you that. I believe they are because they now have been disseminated to the individual commissioners, so I believe they are, but that would have to come through procurement. We'll welcome Commissioner
Thank
Castellini
you.
back from her vacation. We have in front of us as our next item of business, a resolution related to an item that we approved previously for the sale of the Hollister Recreation Area. this being a real estate transaction, the requirements for filing and law has reviewed and asked us to pass a resolution. You have the resolution in front of you. Are there any questions or comments related to the resolution, which just documents our decision and our vote at a prior meeting? Are there any questions or
No
comments?
questions.
If not,
I don't have a question on the resolution. I do have a question on the total project, and it goes back to a comment I made several times, and I just want to make it again. One of the things we acknowledged at the very onset of this discussion was that this would be a positive for that area. But one of the things we were going to face was the fact that there's a basketball court there that kids use all the time. And we talked about relocating that. I've not seen anything definitive about that, and I don't want that to get lost. Because one of the things we talk about all the time, we hear in the news all the time about kids having recreational opportunities that are close to them. And I don't want to see this taken away and not replaced by something that is equally accessible. And we haven't said anything definitive about it, but I just don't want it to get lost.
excellent point. And I can assure you that staff has been discussing that. And also, that was a recreation basketball court. And as your representative to the Cincinnati Recreation Commission, we are looking at, and as you know, we are sharing with the Recreation Commission a piece of the proceeds of the sale of this property to ensure that that is used for that exact purpose.
Great.
Whether it's exactly a basketball court for a basketball court within X number, I can't, but I know that is on the radar screen for both parks and recreation.
Very good.
And I think that's been absolutely clear in all of our discussions, and I appreciate that.
Terrific. Thank you.
So having said that, do we have a motion on the resolution?
I'll move to accept the resolution as presented.
Is there a second?
Second,
We have a motion and second by Mrs. Castellini. Are there any other questions on this resolution? If not, all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Nay? Thank you. Well, that is approved. At this time, we will go into executive session, and I would move that the board go into executive session to consider the appointment, to consider the enter into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 parentheses G, to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of a public employee or official. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second by Vice President Thomas. This is a roll call vote, so
Thank you.
yes.
Vice President Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini,
yes.
Commissioner Linder,
Yes.
Commissioner North,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask that the room be cleared. We will have a brief executive session and then call you back in and make sure everybody is back before we proceed. So thank you. And Mary, if you can ensure, I believe Kevin and Frank, anyone related to the city can stay on
Okay.
the feed, but if you can ensure that those are the only,
Yep, it's just Kevin.
thank you.